Alright, my lovers, welcome back to We Need to Talk. And would you believe it, Philippe Coutinho has joined Aston Villa. So today we're talking about loan moves. If you haven't seen these headlines already, then where the f*** have you been, quite frankly? Either way, it's quite an astonishing move, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit more detail in just a moment, but it kind of got me thinking about some loan moves that some other Premier League clubs should make. So today I'm going to be looking at one player each Premier League club should take on loan or let go on loan in January. That's right, could be an incoming, could be an outgoing. I also asked you guys at home to get involved in this on Twitter. Loads of you guys were sending your suggestions in, so I'll be including a few of them. If you want to get involved next week, at Joe Tomlinson is the handle. Go and follow it. I also want to hear your thoughts on the Coutinho move to Villa. Get in the comments right now. Villa fans, how buzzing are you? The rest of football, is this just going to be a flop? Let's discuss it. Alright, as I said earlier, I'm going to be looking at each team today and a loan signing they could either make or let go. We're starting alphabetical order with Arsenal. And the rumours are building quickly around Gini Wijnaldum joining on loan from PSG. Now, PSG are reportedly keen to loan him out. To be honest with you, the fans clearly don't like him. I saw one PSG fan tweet a Barcelona fan yesterday with a photo of Gini Wijnaldum saying, "We took a bullet for you." Oh dear. So the fans don't really rate him, and maybe Poch doesn't rate him as highly as we were expecting him to anyway. Only 8 starts in League this season, just 850 minutes of football, and given the wages he's on out there, that's pretty ugly reading. And we know that Arsenal probably need midfielders. Ainsley Maitland-Niles is gone to Roma. El Neni has gone to the AFCON. Of course, Partey's gone to AFCON as well. So at the moment, they've literally just got Lokonga and Granit Xhaka. Recipe for problems. Some people at home might be saying, look, Gini Wijnaldum, he's finished. He's been crap at PSG. But let's not forget how good he was at the Euros when he was playing in a slightly more advanced role. He's clearly a very senior figure and a real leader. He's got Premier League experience. If he came in on loan, you could probably imagine PSG subsidising some of those wages. I think this is a win-win for Arsenal if they could get a deal for Wijnaldum over the line. Do I see it happening? Nah. Can't see it. Alright, let's talk about the big one then. Aston Villa, Philippe Coutinho. How has this happened? Well, I'll tell you how. 2 words. Steven Gerrard. The pulling power of the big man, his ex-teammate, has obviously factored in heavily in Philippe Coutinho's thinking. Of course, he needed to get out of Barcelona. He was getting absolutely no game time, rotting at the club. Barca needed to get rid of him in order to free up squad space and register Ferran Torres, which is almost comical. They spent 50 million on him and couldn't register him, but they can now because Coutinho's gone. He's only played 614 minutes of football in the last calendar year, which isn't great. I don't expect Coutinho to hit the ground running. I think it might take a little bit of time to bed him into the side. Might take just a little bit of time for him to get back up to speed, especially with the Premier League. Having said that though, the last time he went on loan to Bayern Munich was extremely productive. Yes, he had the occasional injury, but his fitness massively improved on what we've seen at Barcelona. 15 starts, 8 goals, 6 assists. Did really well in the Champions League as well. Let's not forget that whole fiasco of him playing against Barcelona at the Nou Camp. And to be honest with you, I just love the romance of this move. If I was a Villa fan, I would be buzzing. Yes, he's not had the best couple of years at Barcelona, but that can happen to a lot of players. Sometimes Barcelona can just eat you up and spit you out. If he can refine even 60% of the form we saw at Bayern Munich and previously at Liverpool, then they've got an unreal rotation option, and that Villa front 5 is looking sensational. You know, Buendia, Bailey, Ings, Watkins, Coutinho. Ooh. But as I said at the top, what do you guys think of Coutinho joining Villa? Shocked, happy, gutted, sad? Let me know in the comments below right now. I'll be in the comments for about the first hour. Moving on to Brentford, and I'm not really going to bother with this one. Lursel's already joined, of course, hasn't he? Raya got that bad injury, and it's not Brentford's season, but it's been a major factor in their struggles, I think. So Lursel comes through the door on loan Easy. Already sorted. Okay, at Brighton, I've gone for a little bit of a rogue shout. This was actually a Patrick Van Straten suggestion on Sunday Vibes, and it's Dele Alli on loan from Tottenham Hotspur. Of course, Brighton occasionally playing with a sort of second striker. They play with those creative midfielders that like to get up in and around Neal Maupay and support him. And Dele Alli on loan might be a decent option. They're currently 17th for goals scored in the league when they should be around 12th by expected goals. So clearly they need a little bit more firepower and creativity going forward, despite the fact that Alexis McAllister is probably playing his best football in a Brighton shirt recently. And I think Dele Alli can re-find that best form he showed at Tottenham a few years ago under the right coach. And I think Graham Potter could be the perfect coach for him. He needs structure. He needs tactical discipline. I don't think he's necessarily the most intelligent on the pitch footballer. And I think Potter would bring that side out of him way more. A little bit like Poch used to. Let's also not forget he is a really intelligent presser, does great off-the-ball work. If you look at some of his tackles, interceptions and pressure numbers, they're right up there amongst Europe's attacking midfielders. And he would be required to do that at Brighton. We know they play that really structured system. I just think this could be an interesting one. Another fun move for me that I would be really intrigued by. At Burnley, I went for Ross Barkley coming in from Chelsea. The reason I went for Ross Barkley is that, Burnley needs some creativity. They need somebody who can produce a moment of magic, a la Maxwell Cornet, who is being way, way over-relied on at this point. And I just think Ross Barkley would be a good option to offer creativity. He would be maybe someone that can immediately impact that side. An upgrade on Goodmanson, potentially. Maybe even an upgrade in central midfield if they opted to go for a slightly more attacking midfield layout under Sean Dyche, which is doubtful, nevertheless. And I think Barkley would benefit massively from playing consistent first-team football. His wage might be a problem, but Chelsea might be willing to subsidise some of that. I just think this is a fun move for a progressive passer, a progressive ball carrier, and it's just something Burnley don't have in the squad. For Chelsea, I took to Twitter and I looked at Mbayama's suggestion. Here he tweeted me saying Hudson-Odoi as an outgoing 100%. Lack of minutes has really stunted his growth. Oh, I feel it's harsh, but there's definitely some truth to it. He has played 12 Premier League games this season. 9 of them have come as starts. So he's been fairly regular, if not a guaranteed name on the first team. He's played a number of different roles. He's still an absolutely outrageous ball progressor. So as you can see here, look at these sort of progressive carries. 10.4. Up in the top 3 percentile of world football. Shot creating actions up in the top 10 percentile of world football. So clearly, he has got the talent to play at an elite level. And I just think Chelsea regret not letting him join Borussia Dortmund a couple of months ago when they tried to make that loan move back in August. I think that would have been a lovely fit and he would have developed way, way quicker than we're seeing at Chelsea. So maybe in January, say to Dortmund, look, BVB. Callum Hudson-Odoi, what are you saying? You fancy him? 6-month loan, no option to buy? Developing a little bit for us? They might say yes. You never know. Crystal Palace still need a right back. I spoke about it on last week's episode where we were looking at one player they should sign permanently. I actually think on loan they could well dip into the PSG squad, who are quite frankly offloading everybody. 7 players available to sign in January according to the Keep, including this man, Colin Dagba. He's obviously way down in the pecking order now that Ashraf Hakimi has arrived. Thilo Kehrer can also play in that right-back role. And there is major interest here from Saint Etienne in France, which could kind of scupper Palace's move. But he still played 25 Ligue 1 games last season. He played in the Champions League for PSG. And I wonder whether Patrick Vieira could use some of those French connections to get a deal like this over the line. He is contracted until 2024. So I wonder even if you could get a loan with an option to buy. That could be quite exciting if you're Crystal Palace. There's no guarantees he'd come to the Prem and hit the ground running, and obviously Joel Ward is your captain. But I just like the idea of being punchy if you're Palace. You've been punchy with your signings of Mark Gahey, of Joachim Anderson, or of Conor Gallagher, or Odsonne Edouard. There's no reason Colin Dagba couldn't be the next name on that list. At Everton, get him out at all costs. Cenk Tosun, 27 million. 27 million. 27 million pounds Everton paid for him. He's got 6 minutes of football this season, Cenk Tosun. 6 minutes of football. I mean, they literally signed Salomon Rondon to play up front ahead of Cenk Tosun. They just cannot get rid of this guy. He's obviously on bumper wages. They'd be desperate to sell him on a permanent, but I don't see it happening. Loan him to Turkey, loan him to Russia, loan him to wherever you've got to get his wages off the book, and hope that they include an option/obligation to buy. I just can't believe he's still there. At Leeds, I do still think they need midfielders. I think Escasibar last week is a really good shout on a permanent for them that I said, but not going to pat on the back FC. I also think on loan, they should reconsider a player they tried to sign in 2020 and in the beginning of 2021, I believe, under Marcelo Bielsa, or the back end of 2022. It's Riqui Pooge. One start this season for Barca. He's played a total of 294 minutes. Actually, 90 of those minutes came very recently against Mallorca, where yet again he was a passing metronome. But he has fallen down the pecking order. You know, he's behind Pedri, behind Gavi, behind Nico, behind Busquets, behind Frankie. I think Riqui Pooge would benefit from a loan at this stage, Barca fans. And like I said, Bielsa has tried to get him in the past. I think he wouldn't necessarily be an immediate impact player for Leeds just because of the physicality of the Prem, and it would take him, given his stature, a little bit of time to get up to speed. But if he could get up to speed quickly, he'd be a great asset in that midfield because his stats are outrageous. Now, obviously, we've got a pretty small sample size here, 618 minutes over the last 365 days. But, you know, these past numbers are what I'm looking at for Leeds. A little bit of ball retention in the midfield without Calvin Phillips' physical presence in there, I think would be a big positive. So Riqui Pooge to Leeds, not going to happen, but I like the idea. Okay, let's go to Leicester, who clearly need centre-backs, given that against Liverpool, Wilfred Ndidi and Daniel Amati played there. I'm going for Malang Sarr at Chelsea, who I just think is a really good defender. We saw it against Tottenham in the Carabao Cup recently. He can operate at a Premier League level very comfortably, but he's not going to get the minutes. He's not going to get the game time. It is going to be hard to get him out of Chelsea, given that Thiago Silva has picked up that injury. COVID is hitting, and I'm sure Thomas Tuchel wants as big of a squad as possible to combat those issues. But he's still only 22. He's only made one Premier League start this season, and he would be an instant starter for Leicester. I'd have a stab at it. Liverpool are really struggled. Their squad isn't that deep. I don't think they need to loan anyone out, to be honest with you. So I almost wanted just to scratch them. I'm going to say Tyler Morton could do with a top-level championship loan. Having watched him in the Premier League, I think he's maybe 12 months away from being ready to play in that position for Liverpool. I thought he was really impressive against AC Milan, don't get me wrong. But he might benefit from some consistent game time in central midfield in a really physical league. It's a tough one though. Man City's very similar. Couldn't think of anyone in their squad that could be loaned out. Obviously, they're not going to loan anyone in, Man City. I've gone for Cole Palmer. Again, he's not going to go. Pep obviously rates him extremely highly. He's giving him the Phil Foden treatment, if we're real. He's giving Cole Palmer the Phil Foden treatment. He's saying, you're not going down on loan. You're going to be with the first team squad training with the best players in the world in a system that I have perfected. And you are going to get the occasional minutes. You know, got minutes in the Champions League, scored in the Champions League. Man City rate this lad as highly as Ferran Torres, which is a huge compliment. I don't think he'll go out on loan, but you know, in my head, I just couldn't figure out anyone else. At Manchester United, so many players, isn't there? The squad is just so bloated, and I think that bloating is really causing Ralph Rangnick some issues because the players on the periphery of the squad, i.e. Donny, Anthony Martial, Dean Henderson, are getting angry that they're not getting minutes when players are underperforming, but then they want to go and it's becoming this awkward fiasco. So I would let Anthony Martial go out on loan. Obviously, Sevilla put in a paltry offer of like 30% of his wages and no option or obligation to buy, which just makes no sense for Manchester United. I do think if the right loan move arrived, United would accept it, but somebody's going to have to stump up and pay some of those wages because he's on over £200,000 a week, and the club might end up being Newcastle that do that. You know, with Callum Wilson out injured for what seems like a substantial amount of time, Anthony Martial might become an option. They say, look, we could loan him for 6 months at a fairly cut price fee given our financial level and just pay his wages. I don't think he's going to go to Barcelona. I don't think it's realistic he's going to go to Juventus. Unless Sevilla finds some money, Martial might end up being stuck. But United could do with him going out on loan. Newcastle are currently in the process of signing everyone in European football. They are linked with absolutely everybody. 100 million to spend in January at least. I don't think they'll do too many loan moves, to be honest with you. Anthony Martial might be one of them. I think I would personally go for Abdou Diallo at PSG. Now, PSG want rid of him on a permanent, urgently. If I was Newcastle, I'd be thinking we could take him on a 6-month loan with an option or an obligation to buy based on appearances, just to see how he fits into the Premier League. Because, of course, when he left Borussia Dortmund, we're talking about a really highly rated prospect. It hasn't worked out at PSG, but PSG have got some fantastic defenders. So Newcastle could be getting one of those players that hasn't quite worked at an elite club, but at a more middling club is very successful. There are a few problems here though. He's currently at AFCON with Senegal, which makes stuff like transfers and medicals and contracts very complicated. And he's reportedly in talks with AC Milan. And I think if AC Milan offer him what he wants, he's currently on £92,000 a week at PSG. If AC Milan offer in that ballpark, I think he'd probably pick Milan over Newcastle, who might pay him more money. Another benefit of Diallo is not only can he play centre-back, but he can also play left-back. So if they didn't get that Luke Dean deal over the line and he wanted to use him in a back three as the left-sided centre-back, or even in back four as a left-back, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. I think Diallo is a smart signing for Newcastle. For Norwich, we've gone Toddy Cantwell. What has gone wrong here? The bloke is just so out of favour. Newcastle are interested. I don't see Norwich selling to a direct rival, but apparently Norwich want him gone on a permanent, let alone a loan. They're asking for between 15 and 20 million pounds, and you think a couple of years ago when he went down to the Championship, we're talking probably a £30 million footballer. We're talking about links to Liverpool. Now we're talking about him potentially going to Newcastle. He is under contract until 2023, so I think a loan move is unlikely. Norwich are only really going to let him go on a permanent, and as I said at the top, I don't think they'd let him go to a direct rival for relegation like Newcastle. So Cantwell's going to go, but it might end up being a permanent. For Southampton, I'm going to stick by exactly what I said last week, which is a loan move for Dean Henderson. Let's not mess about anymore there. At Tottenham, I think there's a few names that could benefit from loans, and one of them is Joe Roden. I actually think he could offer quite a few Premier League clubs an upgrade, most notably Watford in the centre of the defence. He's not started a Premier League game this season. In fact, I don't think he started a game in any competition for Tottenham. He's clearly out of favour under Antonio Conte, who prefers his other defensive options. This whole transfer of Roden from Swansea to Tottenham, it's just not worked, has it? But he is still only 24, which is another reason I think if you're a Premier League club like Watford, like Burnley, maybe even Newcastle, I'll just keep throwing names at them, Roden would be a decent signing. As for Watford, I didn't want to include Roden again, so I've tried to mix it up, and I've actually gone for Callum Chambers for them, a player who's versatile enough to not only play a centre-back, but a right-back, and also could offer them cover in defensive midfield, which they need. Now, this was a suggestion from Stuart Kirk on Twitter, and he said, if I was a lower Premier League side in need of defensive reinforcements, I'd be looking to see if I could get Callum Chambers out of Arsenal, a bit underwhelming, but rarely puts a foot wrong and can play centre-back, right-back, CDM. Of course, he went on loan to Fulham as well, didn't he? 29 starts in that 18-19 season. He was okay, and Watford are leaking goals. They're fine going forward, but at the back, it's like a sieve. For West Ham, I've gone real punchy. I've gone for Luka Jovic on loan out of Real Madrid. Another forward option for David Moyes' side. Mikel Antonio over-relied upon. Jarrod Bowen a little bit over-relied upon at the moment as well. And Jovic kind of fits the bill. This would make headlines. He's still only 24. He's not started a league game so far for Real Madrid this season under Carlo Ancelotti, who clearly doesn't favour him. He started just 2 league games last season as well. It's not worked for him at Madrid. But if you can find a bit of that Frankfurt Jovic, then you've got some gold dust for 6 months. Having said that, you know, Haller came from Frankfurt to West Ham and it didn't quite work. Could Jovic be the exception? Maybe. Give it a go, David. Let's finish with Wolverhampton Wanderers then. That was a terrible accent, wasn't it? I just think they need one more forward. I think they need one more forward who can operate on both wings and both flanks, given that Pedro Neto might not hit the ground running. So I'm actually suggesting Amad Diallo from Manchester United, who I really think is ready to play in the Premier League and offer quite a substantial amount to somebody. He's not going to get any game time at Man United. I think Rangnick has agreed to let him go out on loan. He was very close to going to the Eredivisie before a little injury stopped that move, and I think he'd do bits for Wolves under a really positive Bruno Lage coaching system. He wouldn't necessarily be a starter, but he might, compete for a position, which is definitely more than what he's going to do at Manchester United. So Amad Diallo to Wolves, an outside shout. So there we go. That was my list of one loan signing each club should make, be that in or out of their club, mainly off the back of this huge Philippe Coutinho news. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. That's it for today's episode. If you want to go over to Continental Club, they're talking about some other weird moves like Philippe Coutinho. That's Doogie Critchley and the boys on Euro Football Daily. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. See you later. Bye.